Dear students, welcome to this new programming session of our programming series Object Oriented Programming. So, we are into C++ programming, which is object oriented programming. We are seeing the concept of C++ programming. Today, we are going to see a very interesting concept of C++ programming. Yes, as you can see, we are going to see default arguments, right? So, before starting default arguments, we will understand what is default argument. To understand any concept, let's break it down to different separate terms. So default argument is broken to default and argument. So what is argument? You might have studied arguments and parameters in C programming, right? Let us have a quick recap of argument. So argument are the variables which has been given in function prototyping. For an example, we are having a function sum which is having two integer variable, integer x comma integer y. So that integer x and integer y are known as the argument, and whenever you are passing the value while calling a function, they will be known as the parameters. So the concept of argument is clear. Now we will see what is default. So default is nothing but any default value. Hence, when we combine both these terms, default argument means in C++, whenever we are doing a function prototyping, in a simplest term, whenever we are making functions, right? We give the default value to the arguments. That can be done in C++, which was not available in C. So that is known as default argument, right? So in function prototyping, whenever we will give some default value to argument, that will be known as default argument. Now, what is the use of default argument? For an example, I want to perform some addition task or whatsoever, where a value of third integer variable, which is integer c in this case, is not so important. If user gives that value, then it will be added in the summation. Otherwise, it should not have any effect on the a plus b, right? So at that time, what we should do? We should make integer c equals to 0, which is a default argument, right? If we are not doing this, user will have to compulsorily pass the value of a, b and c while calling the function sum, right? And that will be carried out. So with default arguments, if user is not specifying the value of c, default value of 0 will be taken into summation. If user is passing the value, that value, for an example over here, I have passed sum 5, 10, 15. So that 15 will be carried out to integer c and 0 will be overridden. So that's how default argument works. The entire scenario and the same concept we will see through our program. We will see one demo program in which we will see a plus b plus c, where c will be your default argument, just as we seen over here. So now let's switch back to IDE.
Okay. So we are into our IDE. Now let's quickly see the program of default argument. First of all, I will include the needed header files, which is iostream.h. Then after, I will include conio.h for console manipulation. What we are doing over here is we are making the same program sum as illustrated in presentation, having integer a, integer b and integer c as an argument, where integer c is given a default value 0, hence integer c is default argument. Then after, within this sum, what we are doing is we are simply printing static message sum is equals to followed by a plus b plus c and l, right? Then after, I'll give void main having two inbuilt functions clr scr as well as get ch to hold the output. And then after, over here I'm calling the function with two static values 5, 10. Let me give a comment over here is giving no value to c means c is equals to 0 is taken, which is the default argument. And then after, I'm calling 5, 10, 15 as illustrated in presentation, where c is equals to 15 is overridden with, or you can say c is equals to 0 is overridden with value 15. So as discussed, if the value of integer variable c, which is the last argument or you can say default argument, is given, then it will have the value which is given as a parameter over here, in this case 15. If it is not given, then rather than throwing an error, it will take the default argument. Now let's compile this program and see if any error is there or not. So as you can see, it is being compiled successfully. So before giving the output, let us have the idea of what the output will be. So 5 will be copied over here in integer a, this 10 will be copied over in integer b, c will be taken as 0. So sum equals to a plus b plus c, 5 plus 10 plus 0, 15. In this case, 5 will be within a, 10 will be within b, and this 15 will be within c. So a plus b plus c will be 5 plus 10 plus 15, 30. So now let's have the output. As you can see, sum equals to 15 as anticipated, as well as sum equals to 30 as we have discussed. So this is it for default argument program. I am freezing the screen over here for your reference so you can have a snapshot of it, and then after we will switch back to our presentation.
So we have seen the concept of default argument through our C++ program. Now let's have a quick recap of whatever we have understood throughout this session. We have seen the concept of default argument. We'll quickly recap this. Default argument are the arguments with some default value in C++ function while we are doing function prototyping, right? Default arguments are those type of arguments whose values should not be passed or may not be passed, right, when function is called. So the default argument is taken rather than throwing an error. In general, function arguments, if we are passing less number of parameters, then it will throw an error, right? That cannot be done over here because we are having a default value. Then we have seen one limitation of default argument. What we have seen is default argument must be the rightmost argument of your function prototyping. So after default argument, any argument if exist must be default argument. Normal argument must not exist after your default arguments, right? So that was the concept of default argument. Apart from this, some questions that can be ticked from this particular session are: what is argument? What is parameter? What is default argument? What is the use of default argument in C++? Can you set the limitation of default argument which is available in C++? And I am giving you one demo program which has been written over here. We have seen the addition of default arguments, right? We have taken integer a, integer b, and default argument with integer c, and we have performed the summation. I am giving you an example where you will have to find the area of the circle, right? Equation of area of the circle is pi r square. So 3.14 multiplied by r, right? User will only enter r, the radius, and you should take 3.14, the value of pi, as a default argument. Try to do this program. If you find any query or confusion or error in programs or questions, write us in the comment section. This is it for today's session. I hope you have liked this video. Like this video, share this video, subscribe to YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.